So the good thing about today's talk and the bad thing about today's talk is that I never seen any actual work of yourself by you. So I'm only reading some introductions about your work, but I haven't seen the actual work. So that's to me as a curator, it's more interesting that I can trying to let you introduce your work to me non-visually. So that's the interesting part. And I understand that you are working around various media between painting and sculpture and installation and participatory activities, inviting uh, audience participation as well. My first curiosity coming from very prominently from the color of your work. And I understand that you do not want to define yourself either as a painter or as a sculptor, but can you just tell us more about the language of your color?
Wow. You see, it's quite difficult for me to explain is how it begins. From early on, it's always about the color to me, because in the 60s, middle of Cold War, there are no color at all in the village in Chiang Mai. And the first that touching me the most is all the modernized color. Even the painting, the new mural painting in the temple or the decorate. Usually we always have black and white in the 60s. Like even one television screen or newspapers, whatever all the media that I get in touch when I was a boy is always monochromic or black and white. And the color give me a new touch, let's say. Changed me totally. And also come to about, it's not my work, first I have to, honestly, I never think it's my work. I came back to do all these colorful object. I call it mantra, something. It's not for me or about me, it's from the more inspiration from outers, condition or necessity. Like when you have to show a group show, to do a show as an exhibition in art system. What I can do only is, because I used to do 40 years ago in the 80s, learning as a student or learning as a young artist about to just paint something.
This is really interesting when you're talking about your sort of childhood experience in the 1960s and 70s. And it's almost opposite to what I have experienced when I talking to my artist, primarily from China, for instance. And in the 1960s and 70s in China, it's very similar, very dull color, primarily you've got black and white or navy blue or the color red, right? Because of the Mao's Cultural Revolution and so on. So some artists are heavily influenced by those color environment, and you can see that some of them doing some work in a very interestingly grayish sort of color or in the color red. But you are going the opposite. You are trying to make something completely different. You are trying to make something rebellious to what you experienced, which is more colorful in an entirely different world. In your according to yourself, it's called utopian world of color.
Yeah. Wow, it's so many factors and conditions how it become color.
Mm.
But it not. I don't call it colorful, but usually it's a color.
Mm.
Yeah, we forgot about the spiritual part of it. No?
Mm.
Actually, I'm more inclined to something transcendental.
Mm.
But we talk about the social context in Thailand.
Mm.
And much until nowadays, even today, we are in the turmoil of all that unfinished projects of the modernity, even the pre-modern state of the Thai social system, or even in the power of establishments and all the tyranny, governance, the monarchy. This concerned me a lot, and it affect. I just start the studio practice 9 years ago,
All right.
2012,
Wow.
by the invitation of all the we call art work. And I also do action somehow with all this kind of platform.
Yeah.
Painting, let's say, but I turn it in the 90s, in the 80, 90, and until lately, it's like the year 2000, I will work with all the young or emerging artists that I become the studio painter for them.
Yeah.
To make supply the work.
Yeah.
So
you've got different forms and different approaches for artistic production. We will come to that a bit later, I think. Let me just stay in.
But this came out from the political.
Yes. Let me just stay on the conceptualization of the color for a bit. When you're talking about different colors and using different colors, if you see each color as a particular visual vocabulary, as a visual words, what is your grammar? What is the code of making them together, in your view? Because you are inspired from the social phenomenon, from this kind of experience that you've seen around your everyday life. But when you're putting all those together, as you said, that you are not trained as a painter, and when you're putting those together, what is the code for them to be together?
Wow, this is a good question, but hard to answer. It's about the process, because I'm concerned about the necessity and to be more down to earth, kind of not to be a studio, not to be an artist, a painter, professional. It came out like I will collect the old paint and recycle it.
Right.
Even here, I never buy. I just yesterday buy some film spray or something. I use all the throwaway. In the 80s, I used to do that in Europe. All the throwaway paint, and I apply it and adjust it to be oil painting. To me, it's so every color is so beautiful. Even the drop out, every drop of color is so beautiful to me. Beauty. We talk about beauty because after some minimalist or conceptualist and all the action art performing, color have been abundant a lot. And to me, it's like when we trace back to our childhood, it's so about color, the material, the medium, and how it grew together with the new technology. I'm so excited with all this newfound LED color that is colors and all the day-glow or the transparent color, all kind of new popular culture that use with all the graffiti and spray paint.
So can you give us a little bit, a few examples when you're talking about recycling the color, when you're collecting the color from the everyday life? How do you collect them and how do you use them?
For example, in here, in your academy, there is leftovers.
All right.
In the scrap, there are so many that or the house paint or industrial paint. That's always in the storage. In the Ikon too, I will ask and they will give away. And then, but I apply it to be more oil-based. You see, usually it's water-based. And how to make it stronger and look. I have
This is really interesting because you are collecting this kind of color which are already available in everyday life, and you just rearrange them, reorganize them in the position that you want, in the particular form that you want them to be in, and this becomes the process of your production, right?
You see, like when we talk about the past, the art activities to us in China, of your background or mine, it never be established. Like even in Europe, if you talk like 100 years ago, in the 19th century, it's about the occasion that people participate as a party, just one day. Let's say we can see now the contemporary art activity is just for the opening. People come and get along. It's contemporary. It immediate. It's more like a catering event. Yeah. When I said it's not about me who make the last decision. Painting or sculpture or form of fine art. It's always about the decision, especially the high modern. It's about the decision making of the last one. But how to make this process without alter, without responsibility of the center as an artist. You see, I try to expand. I try. To be make the color that it not became the medium or the art. It should be more like an event eventually.
Right. Okay. That's really important because this is how you see the color. Actually, the colors they flow through the process. They're not the destination of your work. This is the process of your work. That's very important. And also when you're talking about...
should be a more social and democratic, and also you see more in the circle of the ecology.
Right. Okay.
What we call now the capitalist. How to get flow, not with the capitalist. But without.
Yeah, we can also see that you've got different forms. Some are more two-dimensionally appeared, but they are not necessarily two-dimensional. They just appear to be two-dimensional. And some, when they, let's say, when they hung from the ceiling or when they rolled up like a scroll, they become a three-dimensional, and therefore they become a sculptural being or an installation. So, what's your intention about making those forms various for different occasions?
It's a twist between this reality and what it appears. Because I make a structure, but it's not a sculpture in a form. We call it sculpture, or design. But I make it to be a paint object. I make it short. It's like I make it became a painting with color. But I plan to be small music, move with the color. But we see at the end how we have to cross our finger that it became out alive like that when we set it into a show. It's
Yeah.
a performative of it.
Yeah. And again, I have to admit that I never experienced your work in the actual exhibition. But when I see those images, when you have the scroll canvas folded up, it's like in the form of a scroll. Do they unfold it or they just stay as they are? If they do, then they seems to be a very special scroll because they are they're not going to be unfolded, and therefore what's inside is always invisible. Are you expecting us to imagine what is in the scroll, or you are expecting we unfold the scroll?
But that is already planned to let it be as the people who arrange it. You see, it can be fold or it can be spread, or it can be hang, or it can be just scrap or something.
Right.
But I prepare I love the two sides of things.
Right.
That you don't have to see with your eye sensory only.
Yeah.
With your eye. But you can expect or you can imagine half of things. Usually we not only half, it's nearly 99% of the unknown that we cannot really visualize.
You can't see them. Yeah.
But I make more accentuous color that look vibrant.
Yeah. And
For the memory. For the memory.
and imagination. Yeah.
Concept because conceptualize.
Yeah. And I also know that always within your exhibitions, you will include a section that you can give your works away to the audience, and you see that this is a kind of present to the visitors and to your audience, and this sometimes involves participations as well. Can you tell us a bit more about this?
Yeah. You see, it uses the history of painting, so we have to be hanged somewhere, even public or private. It's starting in Europe or even Asia. Asia is more outdoor, but if indoor is there on the panel, and it's not really for everyday life. Mostly for the party or for the social gathering. But how I interest in this in the late 80s, I give away my object in exchange that the stranger can come into your private area. And then I wish to have exchange, like open the window for the dialogue, a discussion, or just say hi. But it came like we talked to the curator here, even 2 years ago, that we want to revise that kind of exchange. They taking care of that object as any perception that they see as art or design or just functional. Can be functional but loosely, sloppily functional. And in exchange of the private, now we have, after 10 years or 7 years, we have really a private room in our social media, in IG or in your channel of YouTube or Vimeo or something. I said, let please we can have a share of information about your privacy And this object will be like an invitation card, a key.
Yeah.
And I do all form of high modern form of, you can call it jewelry or art or sculpture or paint in exchange. But I hope it will function out with the media.
Yeah.
Try to be I'm old young.
Yeah.
Try to be updated with how it happens.
Yeah.
With so-called conventional, we call it dead already. I think art is dead, but every 5 years it will revise, revision itself.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
So my question was that what is the concept of your solo show at the Ikon Gallery, and what do you mean by dream world?
This is not my concept. This is the
Curators.
Ikon is very good institution. They plan it. And they call, maybe they see it fit to mind. A loser dream, what we call.
But do you agree?
I am a loser because if you grew up the same age as me from the 60s, late baby boomer, we are hippie, we are radical, and we want to change, you see, and it never happens, even 1 second. Slowly change. You talk about the new normal, the disruption of the new normalcy. Now, after the COVID, this is the most obvious event in the history that I observed.
Yeah.
From the 60s on, every 10 years you see the shifting of a paradigm, or the shifting of the mentality of in art especially. And as an observer, I say this is a dream, but actually this is a dream that we are in, and especially in the Ikon is not white cube, but it's white wall. And to make this dream a utopian, a broken utopian, at least you sip a little bit, one drop of the imagination of but it nearly now, after we got in this, or the application and device of the utopian, like you prepay or pay online, what do you call that? I cannot do it. If you order, you sit at home. You say in that old Thai or Buddhist dream is when the utopian time comes, you just sit there in your room and you open the window. Whatever you want,
They will come in
through
the window. Yeah.
This pandemic show us a lot that you can order just one tea or one coffee from outside, and they hand you from there.
Very interesting articulation. My next question is about your view on Thai contemporary art in the globalized art world, and in particular when we see these kind of biennial, triennial institutions and art fairs go around the world. It's kind of interesting to see how artists present their cultural identities through their artwork, and or some work are less culturally identifiable. They are more emerging with international language of contemporary art.
Right.
Yeah. So what's your view on that? Because I know that you were trained in Austria many years ago, and you came to the West in the late 1980s, and obviously that at that point, very few Thai artists came to the West, and you see this art world of contemporary art so early, and you also see that there are increasing visibilities of Thai art in a international stage. And in Thailand, you've got Thailand Biennale as well as Bangkok Art Biennale as well. So what's your view if you step back to see as a Thai artist, how do you see this international art world?
Okay. Wow. So after the Berlin Wall came down, I think the nation's identity is a little bit fading. It become more like a small local. Let's say in Thailand we are more division politically, like the north, the northeast, and the middle. It's a way about the middle. In art world, we see in Europe at the time it changed now, it's shifting to Berlin something. But there's small province like a Chiang Mai. And the contemporary world comes in the 60s. We realized that we are not as a Thai. Maybe China could change too in the soon. We hopefully soon that Beijing and Shanghai will be different cultural identity. And also you see the global events that Thai artists are more involved and participate. You name mostly come from the north, the Chiang Mai, Pichat, Pro, Red with
Yes.
Or the young artists now with Tassanai and all this, it become more and more. Maybe because I see the contemporary practice is more fit to their cultural background. It's more free, and I mean free not from authority of freedom from the state. The lack of everything are lacking and under facility of art, but the culture. You see, let's say if you are outside of Bangkok, things are more easy and more temporary. Nothing's established, nothing much permanent, let's say. The impermanent, ephemeral side of the culture, a rural culture. How is it? It's more cheap and free. That's why it fits to the contemporary art practice art world.
Yeah.
So you can see all the younger generation, even my generation, we are ready to have a conversation with the international.
Well, you're traveling around the world to make your exhibitions and making artworks. Is this your first time in Birmingham, and what's your impression of this city?
First time in England.
All right, okay.
I expect to come, but I never succeed because of the visa. Too lazy to apply the visa. The Birmingham, you see, it's exactly like in Chiang Mai or rural, not like in Bangkok. We can see the central. I didn't walk in London yet, but I can expect, because Birmingham, they are proud of black suburb. All this more like outside. It seemed like a countryside, even a mega city here too. But it seemed the culture and the people and the mind, they are so quite open. The last 3 weeks, I feel that it's so friendly. And maybe because there are no snow here, there are no natural disaster here, there are not so like 70 years, no war, no big damage. People feel like a village.
Well, welcome to England, and And I think there's only two interesting things in Birmingham. One is Ikon Gallery, the other is School of Art. I was joking.
To me, yeah, I walk
Yeah.
every day.
My final question for you is that you just mentioned that you only joined the world of art in 2012.
9 years ago.
Only 9 years ago. So you've got a very young artistic age.
Yeah.
So what's your plan in the next decade for your dream world?
Yeah, I dreamed 20 years ago when I'm 60 and I want to do retreat or retire, let's say. Usually I don't do anything. I didn't earn my living. I don't have any job, any work. But I survive if I survive until 60, I want to be quiet and do a kind of more a painting or a sculpture that old man can afford to do. But the situation, like 10 years now, that after the crash of the power and the people in Thailand, it's all this, there's so much, especially the youth, the young movement, that is shocking me, and I have to follow and update with them. You see, in Hong Kong first, and then in Bangkok now, all the young people want to change.
Yes.
And I am so young at heart. We want to change the whole life, change things.
Yeah.
Socially or the system. So I still have to keep my active until 70s or something.
Oh, you will. I'm sure you will. And I think the pandemic explores that there are a lot of conflicts between human beings and between nations and politically and as well as culturally. And I think at this moment for artists, we've got a lot of anxieties here as well as challenges. But at the same time, we also see opportunities ahead of us. So I wish you a very successful show at the Ikon Gallery, and thank you very much for your time to be with us. Thank you.
Thank you.